Welcome back to the GSMC Baseball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. We have a great show for you today. We'll be covering 4 different segments. The first one is going to be about Juan Soto and the news that came out that he desired to remain with the Washington Nationals and that he did not want to be traded. The second one is going to be about the top spring performers and if that's putting any pressure on the teams they're on to put them on the roster or in what's affecting that in general. Third, we're going to be talking about teams who made it to the championship series and how they can take that leap to get over that hump and make it back to the World Series, and also what they can do to defend their crown of making it to the championship series as well. And finally, we'll be ending off the show just talking about some general news around the league. Now, before we do that, I would like to ask you to please like and follow the show. We got a number of questions from viewers, so to ensure that your question does get read by me, please use the link you see on the screen, gsmcpodcast.net. It really does help. Really does help the show. It means a lot to us. So thank you so much for that. All right. Yeah, let's get into our first segment today. And that is going to be talking about what I talked about a little bit before. And that is Juan Soto and the news that surrounded him and what he talked about. So, let's get straight into it. So for Juan Soto, what happened was he came out yesterday talking about how in the first place he never wanted to leave the Nationals, that was where he thought he was going to play the rest of his career. That's what he thought his home would be, and obviously that didn't happen, of course, being traded now twice since then. So, I think the first question you have to ask when a player says this, because players say this a lot, just kind of, it's a different topic around baseball, and the first one you have to say is, do you believe them? Do you believe that he's saying what he's saying, and do you think he's just saying it to play up to the cameras? And I do believe Juan Soto. I read an article, I think 2 years ago. It was by Jeff Passan, who, as you know, is probably the best baseball writer and best baseball insider in the field. He talked about how Soto was blindsided when the trade rumors started. He thought he would be there forever. He thought there would be a counteroffer once he declined that contract, which we'll be talking about. Don't worry about that. That's definitely part of this. And, he had built a home in Virginia, was hoping to be a National forever, and it just didn't come to fruition. So I do believe Soto when he said he wanted to be a National for life. I think all the evidence shows that is true, that is truthful, and he really did want to stay a National. Now, I think when talking about a topic like this, you have to go back to the start of, okay, where did this all start and why did he get traded in the first place? So, obviously, a little background. We all know Soto with the Nationals start off his career. I mean, he was 22, hitting bombs in the World Series off Justin Verlander and the Astros. The Nationals came out of nowhere to, first of all, win the wild card game, then win the division series, the championship series, and then win the World Series against the heavily favored Astros. As a Mets fan, that run killed me because I thought it was going to be the Mets, but just a magical run that year was for the Nationals, that 2019 team. Looking back on it now, we realize how good they actually were. I mean, you had Strasburg in his prime. You had Patrick Corbin, who was really good. You had Adam Eaton as well, who was a good player. You had Gerardo Parra, who was kind of the life of that team, using Baby Shark as the walk-up song, which was kind of funny in retrospect, but back then it worked. I mean, you had Anthony Rendon, Trey Turner, Yan Gomes. Like, that team was stacked, and it was such a good team. Even more, you have Howie Kendrick, who obviously had the big blow in the World Series, hitting that home run off the foul pole off Will Harris. Strasburg, Corbin on the pitching staff, Anibal Sanchez. Like, that team was stacked, man. You had Daniel Hudson coming out of the bullpen, who had his career was revitalized and was the closer for that team. And that team was so good. And they won, and we were like, okay, maybe this is a new dynasty in baseball. We're going to see this happen more and more. But Rendon left. Strasburg started to regress. Corbin started to regress. And it was kind of over from there. And then, but when you're going into a rebuild, you want to build around a guy like Juan Soto, who is, 23, 24, age around that time, who is probably at that point a top 3, top 5 player in baseball. You'd want to build around him, not trade him. But, the big thing, as we all know now, was they offered him a huge contract, 14 years, over $440 million. We're not sure if it's 14 or 15, but we're going to assume it's 14. He said no. And as soon as he said no, the Nationals went to Ken Rosenthal. They said that, okay, this is what Juan Soto just said no to, and that's our excuse for trading him. So it was kind of a thing by the Nationals organization to say, okay, you know what? If you don't want this, we're going to trade you. You obviously don't want to be here. And there was no deferred money as well, which is something Nationals were known for. It's probably why Bryce Harper left to the Phillies in 2018. And it's just, then Soto got traded like a month later. So I was of the fact that I never thought Soto was going to get traded. I was like, this is all blown up. No way you're going to trade Juan Soto. Like, thinking about it now, it's crazy how Juan Soto got traded. Like, the guy who was 23, one of the best players in the league, and he got traded. Like, that never happened. Imagine if LeBron in his prime was traded. Like, when he was a young guy with the Cavs. Like, LeBron was way better because LeBron's is the greatest basketball player of all time, in my opinion. And Soto's very, very good, but not the greatest yet, obviously. But it's like, of that same, like, thing, because they were both young superstars on a team. And Soto had won a championship at that point. LeBron didn't even do that. So, like, it was just insane. They got a huge haul back. Robert Hassel, James Wood, C.J. Abrams, Mackenzie Gore, legit prospects. You know, a few guys that are going to be the face of their franchise. I mean, we're going to be talking about James Wood later, so I won't get too into that. But, yeah, and I feel like a lot of people are like, okay, the Nationals are right to trade him. He didn't want to. Who's going to say no to $440 million? I mean, that's an insane price, right? And I feel like that's where people are a little bit wrong, and I've thought this for a long time now. Yes, $440 million is nothing to cough at. If someone offered me $440 million, I don't know why it's a hard time saying that. Believe me, I'd take it, but I'm not Juan Soto. And the thing is, you're looking at this contract, and it's either 20, again, we're not sure if it was 15 or 14 years. There was conflicting reports. If it was 14, it was 29. If it was 15, it was 31. So let's just say it was $30 million AAV, all right? Now, that's a lot of money, but you're taking this into consideration of one of the best players in baseball, who is very, very young, who is going to be a franchise superstar, who also won you a World Series. You can't even use the doesn't win excuse. I mean, up to in his Padres, in his career, Juan Soto's lost one playoff series. I mean, he's won a wild card game in a wild card series. That's 2 games. Then he won a division series and a championship series with the Padres, with the Nationals, and a World Series. So he's 4-0 with the Nationals. Then started off with 3-0 with was 2-0 with the Padres, and then lost 1. So he was 6-1 in playoff series in his entire career. That's a winner right there. Now, so you're offering Soto $30 million. Again, a lot of money, but compared to what other people in this league have gotten, especially even then, that's not that much. Like, Judge got 40. Ohtani, got 70. Not really 70 because of the deferred contract, but he's still getting 70 because of what the contract is, even with the deferred money. That's still technically what it is, even though it's not paid out in that way. That's not that much at this point in baseball. Like, I'm sure people who are, a little bit older than me, who have been around more and seen baseball longer, are, thinking how big of a number $30 million is. And again, $30 million is a lot of money. The fact is, though, you're dealing with a superstar player who's young, who won you a World Series, who wants to be there, and you offer him 30 and don't even counter? Like, that's just a bad business model, in my opinion. I think when Soto goes in the market after this year, my contract projection is 13 years, around $550 to $600 million. Like, that's how good he is. So I'm just putting that into perspective of what I think he would get. Hopefully from the Mets, but no more Mets talk. So, yeah, it just didn't make sense. And, if you have one of the best young players in baseball, and instead of countering a contract offer to make him the face of your franchise, you trade him, it just doesn't make any sense to me, and it still doesn't. Like, I understand if he wanted to be traded because they were rebuilding. They said that, other than, Soto, they traded a lot of players that 2021 deadline. They traded Schwarber. They traded, I'm forgetting, I'm blanking on his name, Brad Hand. Traded a good amount of other players as well that, it wasn't just Soto. So if he said, okay, I don't want to wait around my years, I want to win, that would be fine. But he wanted to stay. And the fact of that, you put this young guy who is such a good player for your organization through all this stuff where for a month now, he's getting rumored to, for so many other teams, to play for so many other different teams. In the All-Star game, it's all he gets asked about. He wins the home run derby, all he gets asked about. Like, it was just such a strange situation to put such a young player through. And I really do believe him when he said he wanted to stay in Washington. Now, I think we have to look at it as what would happen if he did stay in Washington. Let's say they don't trade him. You have him now. You don't. But the thing is, as much as I still don't think you should have traded Juan Soto ever, staying with the Padres, you won't have James Wood, a prospect who I am extremely high on. Again, I'm going to be talking on the next segment, so I'm not going to go too deep into it. You also have Robert Hassel, who's fallen down in the ranks a little bit, but still a guy I really love. C.J. Abrams, a really great player. Mackenzie Gore, Harleen Susana. Like, these are great prospects, and they're going to be centerpiece of the Nationals rebuild. So you have to kind of look at it that way. Do you want these 5 great guys or this one superstar who's a transcendent talent, a generational talent, who is basically young Ted Williams? So, I mean, it's just an interesting scenario to look back at and say, what if? What if Soto does stay? Are the Nationals still competitive? If Soto does take that contract, do they go hard in free agency? Do they try to win again? Do they not trade all these guys? I'm not sure. Do they re-sign Trey Turner? Do they not trade Max Scherzer with Trey Turner as well? I forgot about that trade at the 2021 deadline as well. I don't know how I forgot about that one because that was the biggest one, trading Scherzer and Trey Turner. Do they keep them? Do they buy instead of selling? Do they go for it again? Do they make a big run? Like, it's just really interesting to think about. But also that, it's just the Nationals have lost so many franchise faces. Of course, they lost Bryce Harper. They lost Trey Turner, Anthony Rendon, Juan Soto now. They've kind of burned their bridge with Stephen Strasburg because of the whole contract situation, which is just, if you haven't learned about that Stephen Strasburg contract situation, basically, Stephen Strasburg and the Nationals came to an agreement to have Strasburg retire and forfeit most of the money, but not all the money. Some amount of money. I'm not sure if it was all or full, or it was some amount of money. And they were supposed to have a full announcement of him retiring. He was going to get like a statue at the Nationals, going to go into the Hall of Fame. And it said at the last minute the Nationals pulled out of the deal because they wanted to not pay him any of the money, and now are forcing him to come to spring training, even though he wanted to retire. Like, it's just an awful situation that the Nationals are putting themselves through, and their organization's a mess right now, in my opinion. But that's again different situation. So, it's just I don't understand still to this day why the Nationals didn't counter offer to Juan Soto. $30 million for a guy like him is just not enough. It's not going to get it done. Especially with his age, like, that's what we're forgetting. It's not even like he's 27 or 28. He was 23, 24. Like, that's just unfathomable to think about how good he was at that young of an age. Like, it's just incredible how good he is. He was hitting bombs off Justin Verlander in the World Series at that age. Like, it's just incredible what he was doing. And I think baseball would have looked a lot different if he did end up staying with the Nationals. What would have happened with the Padres? Would they have made that magical run to the NLCS last year? 2 years actually. And if they don't, what happens to the Mets? Do the Mets beat them? Do the Mets beat the Dodgers like the Padres did? Do they go to the World Series and beat the Phillies? Like, who knows? Does DeGrom leave then? Like, there's so many little butterfly effects that could happen with this. What happens with the Yankees this offseason if Soto isn't traded? It's just what happens if the Padres keep all their prospects and don't get Soto? Would they have gotten Ohtani? Like, because it was rumored that they were very interested in Ohtani before getting Soto, but obviously they couldn't pay for both of them. So it's just really interesting to think about what happened with Soto and if he did stay with the Nationals. And it was just something interesting I did want to talk about. So, So that was the end of our first segment. We're going to take a break here. Before that, we're going to show you our second segment, which is going to be about spring training performers, who are the guys that have performed the best so far, what's going on with them, and just some stuff like that. So, we're going to take a little break, but then we'll see you after that. So, thanks.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna
wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit, I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant, I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip, you choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
All right, we're back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast, bringing you our second segment. But before we do that, I would like to ask you again to please like and follow the show. Please do donate. It really does help. GSMCpodcast.net, as you see on the screen there. It helps a lot, and it really means a lot. So thank you so much for that. And, let's get into our second segment here, which is going to be about spring training. Obviously it's been going on for a little while now, so it's a little early to be talking about this, but I wanted to just, give people a refresher of what's going on, guys you maybe haven't seen that are doing really good, and, just what's going on with that. So these are the top players who have been performing really well in spring training. I tried not doing that notable players, but some of them did stick out. But, let's get into it. So first, we have Brent Sullivan of the Padres. He right now would slot in as their third catcher. He's been performing very, very well. Had a great game yesterday. He's one of the top leaders in OPS among the minor leagues, among the spring training right now for all the players. He's giving, giving that backup catcher competition to the Padres a little bit of a run for their money now. Obviously, the starting catcher in San Diego right now is going to be Luis Campusano. I don't really think that's a debate or anything that's going to necessarily change, but the backup job, they traded for Kyle Higashioka in the Soto trade to bring them another veteran guy behind Campusano. Higashioka is known for his great defense, great game calling. So, I think when they acquired him, it would kind of just be set in stone that, okay, he is the number 2 guy behind Campusano. He's the backup catcher. Instead, Brent Sullivan's kind of giving it the run for the money right now. I'm not sure what his option situation is. It's always kind of confusing with players like that. But even so, they might, if he continues playing like this, there might be a point where the Padres say, okay, you know what? He has to make the opening day roster. It would be, our team would be worse if he didn't. And at that point, you have to make a decision to either trade Higashioka, send him down, try to pass him through waivers, or just carry 3 catchers on the roster, which is it's unusual, but it's not crazy, I guess. It's happened before. Or you could, bank off this Sullivan performance and trade him, and for a team that does need catching depth. So it's interesting for me to see what's going to happen with Brent Sullivan and the Padres. It's always good for teams to have competition in camp with players you didn't expect it from. You can always need more depth, and I think a guy like Brent Sullivan providing that for the Padres, kind of giving the backup catcher Higashioka a run for his money a little bit for his job is good for the team and for baseball. And I'm excited to see what happens with that and what goes on there. So next we have Trayce Thompson, who is a Mets outfielder. We talked about him a little bit yesterday because of what he did, but the Mets signed him to a minor league contract to be just depth in the outfield. See what he can do in spring training, and so far he's done very, very well. Again, another guy who's one of the leaders in OPS. He has 2 home runs so far, one being a grand slam. He's been hitting the ball hard. He's been playing fine defense. I think he's making a case to make the Mets opening day roster. I mean, the Mets bench was kind of fully set, we thought. You had Tyrone Taylor and TJ Stewart as the backup outfielder types. You had Joey Wendell as the backup infielder. You had Omar Narvaez as the backup catcher. That was what we thought, but I think you can either have 3 outfielders on the bench, or you can you can option Thompson, just say, okay, we don't have a spot for you. You can trade him. You can option Tyrone Taylor, which would be kind of a disappointment considering he was part of that Adrian Hauser trade when we acquired him from the Brewers. Kind of a salary dump by the Brewers, but I thought both players, him and Hauser, were going to be impactful additions to the Mets. So, but I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Trayce Thompson and the Mets. Where they do go from here. Maybe he will fizzle out at the end of the offseason, by the end of spring training. I'm not really sure, But as of right now, he's doing really well. So, yeah, got to give him credit where credit's due. He's performing, and hopefully the Mets see that and put him on the roster. We don't know yet. So, yeah. Spencer Jones. We have another New York outfielder, but this time it's for the team in the Bronx, not the team in Queens. And that is Spencer Jones. So, yeah. I talked about Spencer Jones a little bit before in this podcast, talking about him with relation to Dylan Cease and some breakout players for teams. Spencer Jones is a monster. He's a huge outfielder for the Yankees, a guy that just is absolutely enormous, just a tank of a human being, extremely athletic. Because of that, has brought a lot of comparisons to his future teammate in Mr. Aaron Judge. So, yeah, he has light tower power. I know that phrase isn't used enough, in my opinion. It's a great phrase. I love it. So, and I think Spencer Jones definitely has that. He's really, really good. He's one of the top prospects of baseball for a reason. He's gotten off to a great start with the Yankees. The big first one has been hitting a 470-foot home run against the Tigers in one of the first games. Just a beast. I don't think he's going to make the roster just because I don't really think he's ready for it. But I think it's just a good thing for the future and looking ahead that Spencer Jones is performing this well already. Like, again, he's such a good player, just such good raw talent. Like, yeah, I'm really excited to watch him, really excited to see what happens with him. And, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing his career unfold, especially with the Yankees, and see what happens there. And, yeah, looking forward to it. So next, we have the first of our Nationals outfielders we're going to go to. First is going to be James Wood. I talked about him before. Yeah, he was probably the biggest part of the Juan Soto trade. Probably the top prospect in the Soto trade at that point. I'd probably still say he is the top prospect in the Nationals farm. I mean, it's probably debatable. Dylan Cruz. I'd actually probably lean Cruz now that I think about it more, but I think both are definitely 1 and 2. Yeah, kind of the same as Spencer Jones, really. He's just so tall, so athletic, so muscular. Like, he's just such a beast of an athlete. I mean, he could be an NFL linebacker, and I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, he hits the ball really hard. He hits so many home runs. He has 3 home runs already this spring, one of the top marks in the league. Yeah, he started off so well. He can play defense as well. I think is going to be one of the big parts of that Nationals future in that organization. You know, the Nationals are bad right now, but they're going to be pretty good soon, I think. That farm system, the ranks are coming up, stuff's happening. So, yeah, looking forward to seeing what happens with James Wood. I'm going to watch him a lot as a Mets fan. It'll be in my division. So, yeah, looking forward to see what happens with him, see how he progresses with the Nationals and his career, and, yeah, just what's going to go on with that. So, yeah. Next, we're going to talk about his teammate on the Nationals and a guy that also came over in the Juan Soto trade. Again, so much stuff they got from the Soto trade. I'd still rather have Soto, but they didn't get a bad haul, I'll tell you that much. And that is Robert Hassel. Robert Hassel was a guy I really, really wanted the Mets to draft a few years ago. I loved his just pure hitting ability. I thought the way he hit the ball, how hard he hit it, just his bat-to-ball skills, eye-hand coordination is great and pretty elite for a prospect. And, he's kind of fallen off a little bit with the Nationals. The number 8 prospect right now. He's still very good, but he's fallen off a little bit to where I thought he would be right now. But he's been off to a great start this spring. Been hitting the ball hard. Has some great counting stats. So, yeah, hopefully he can get his stock back up with the Nationals, maybe even push for a starting job. I would be surprised if James Wood makes the opening day roster, but I would be a little surprised about Robert Hassel. But at the same time, he's very, very good, like I said. So if he does, it wouldn't really be that surprising. So, yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to see what happens with Hassel and where his career goes and how he progresses. Next, we have a Baltimore infielder, Kobe Mayo. He's one of their multitude of infield prospects. Yeah, is really, really good. I mean, he's gotten off to a great start this spring. I think he's pushing for a starting job in this loaded Baltimore infield. I do think at the end he'll probably be traded just because of the influx of infield prospects the Orioles do have. Like, it's just insane, the prospects they have. Like, it's just incredible. And I think Mayo's going to be one of the odd men out. We already saw them trade one with Joey Ortiz, and I think Kobe Mayo probably starts the year off, either on the bench or in the minor leagues. And I think maybe he's traded at the deadline if they do need a pitcher, or just is used as trade bait in general. But he's gotten off to a great start this spring, so hopefully he can find a place somewhere. Maybe it is with the Orioles. We'll see what happens with that. And hopefully he gets a chance and becomes a really good player and shows why he's getting off to such a great start this spring. Next is our last position player, one of my favorite names in baseball. Sorry, our second to last position player, one of my favorite names in baseball, and that is Forrest Wall of the Braves. Yes, his real name is Forrest Wall, so amazing baseball name. He's gotten off to a great start in spring training with the Braves, kind of out of nowhere. It's been nice depth for them this past season or two, but he's kind of pushing for a fourth outfitter job possibly. Sam Hilliard got claimed off waivers from the Rockies, so it's possible that he could push for the fourth outfitter job. Again, getting off to a great start, so I think it just adds to that level of depth that the Braves do have, and just what's happening there in Atlanta. So excited to see what happens with him. Excited to see if he does end up making the MLB roster, and what's gonna happen there. So looking forward to that. Our last position player now officially, Elier Hernandez from the Texas Rangers. Kind of a guy that nobody really knows. He's just kind of there, but he's gotten off to a great start this spring with the Rangers. Has had a lot of hits. It's like 6 hits in 9 at bats or something crazy like that. I'll look specifically later, but just gotten off to a great start with Texas. Could be pushing for a spot on the bench. I'm not sure. They did re-sign Travis Jankowski, who probably takes up that fourth outfielder role. But I don't know. I think they could use a lot of depth in the outfield. You have Adolis Garcia covering from injury, which he suffered in the World Series last year, so at the very end. So it could be interesting to see what happens with Elier Hernandez, and does he make the Rangers roster? Does he keep performing like this? I'll be interested to see. And again, I'm interested to see what happens here with him. Next, we're going to go to our pitchers. We only have 3. There's a lot more position players that qualify for this, but we do have some relief pitchers. The first one is a guy I've talked about in a YouTube short before, so if you want to check out our shorts, feel free to do that. They are on the channel, not only from me, but from my co-hosts as well. All great content, so you should definitely check it out. And that is Matt Waldron of the Padres. Now, Matt Waldron has gone off to a great start this spring, but more importantly than that, he is a knuckleballer. We have a knuckleballer, and he was up last year with the Padres. He did it a lot as well. And I'm super excited to have a knuckleballer back in the league. I'm super excited to see what he can do with it. Can he make the knuckleball his signature pitch? How good can he be? And can he bring the knuckleball back? We haven't really had a consistent one since R.A. Dickey or Stephen Wright, those two guys. We had Mickey Giannis a couple years ago, but he only made a couple starts with the Orioles, and he wasn't that effective anyways. I'm looking forward to seeing what Matt Waldron can do, and can he bring the knuckleball back? Definitely think it's possible. Tommy Henry from the Diamondbacks. He's gotten off to a nice start with them. Has had some good stats with Arizona, pitching for a spot in that bullpen. Pitched a few innings. Hasn't gotten up a run yet, or if he has, it's not been many. I don't have specific stats, but he's gone off to a great start with Arizona. Looking forward to seeing what happens with him, and can he bring this to the regular season? And can he progress past this? So, looking very interested in Tommy Henry and the situation going on there. Finally, we have a starting pitcher, the only one on this list, actually, and that is going to be Jordan Wicks of the Cubs. Wicks was a top starting prospect a couple years ago in the draft, got picked by the Cubs, has a nasty curveball. He's probably slots into a starting spot this spring for this season for the Cubs, and is proving it this spring. Again, he's on this list for a reason. He's gotten off to a great start. I'm very high on him. I love his pure stuff. His curveball, again, is amazing. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what he does with the Cubbies and what he does in the rotation. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what Wicks can do in the Cubs rotation and what can go on there. And not only just Wicks, but all these guys on the list. I'm really excited to see what happens with them. Can they keep this progression up, or will they falter? Will they earn a spot in their team? Will they get traded to a different team? Will they just not make the roster at all? I mean, baseball's tough, so wouldn't be surprised. So, I'm very interested in seeing what happens, and with all these guys. So that's our second segment. we're going to take a break here. Before that, we're going to show you our third segment and what that's going to be, and that is going to be Championship Series defense. We talked about World Series defense yesterday, so I figured it'd be only right to talk about the teams that made it to the Championship Series and what they can do to get over that hump and how they can perform better. So, looking forward to that, and we'll see you after the break and after this. So, thanks.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
All right, we're back here for segment 3 of the GSMC Baseball Podcast, and that is going to be about Championship Series and the teams that made it. So yesterday I did talk about teams that made it to the World Series and what they can do to make it back, or in the Diamondbacks' case, win this time, or in the Rangers' case, defend their championship, and what the struggles are going to be like for that. So I'm really interested in this, and I'm excited to talk about it. So obviously the two teams that made it were the Phillies in the National League and the Astros in the American League. Both teams were definitely the favorite, and both teams definitely got upset. The Phillies lost. Both teams did lose in 7. Both were pretty incredible series. Even though the Astros did lose, they had one of the most iconic moments in playoff history with Jose Altuve hitting that home run in the bottom of the ninth. In the top of the ninth to take the lead for the Astros. I unfortunately was not watching at the time. I was doing something else. I don't know what I was doing, but I don't really remember. I think I was somewhere else, but just absolutely incredible. It was one of the greatest moments of baseball history. Just proved Altuve to be one of the greatest playoff performers of all time. But just was an incredible moment, and unfortunately did not win. But I'm here to talk about how I think they can win next time, and how to get over the hump a little bit, and just talking about their off seasons a little bit, because they are notable teams because of what they did last year. So first, we do have to talk about, I'm going to talk about the Astros first. So obviously the Astros, unlike the Phillies, have won a World Series in the 2020s. Phillies last won in 2009, but we'll get to them, don't worry. The Astros, they had an interesting offseason. So the first thing they did was add just Josh Hader out of nowhere. It was like so quick, and I think it's just a representation of how weird this market was. We heard a day before he signed that the Astros were considering making a move on Josh Hader, and that they're they're thinking about it, we're not sure. And then next day, Jeff Passan tweets out that they agreed to deal with Josh Hader out of nowhere. The entire offseason, I thought he was going to the Rangers, even with the rumors saying they didn't want to spend. I thought him to the Rangers just made the absolute most sense in the entire world, and instead he goes to their direct rival. So, the fit for the Astros is a little strange, but it's Josh Hader, so it's, I think you can get over a strange fit when you're getting an amazing player. Obviously, they had one of the better closers in baseball before this in Ryan Presley. He'll now be moved to the 8th, which moves setup man Brian Abreu to the 7th. You lost Kendall Graveman for the year, which apparently some rumors suggest that that was one of the big reasons why they pushed to get Hader so hard and did eventually get him. So, that back end of the bullpen for the Astros is one of the best in baseball, if not the best. If your pitcher pitches 6 innings, 2 runs, and that offense does what it does, and the bullpen does what it does, it's pretty much game, set, match at that point. Just incredible. I did like the move for the Astros. Again, I think it's an interesting debate to see if you should spend big money on relievers or not, because they are so volatile and they do go up and down so much. In my opinion, though, I do think there's a little bit of a difference between a reliever and a closer. When you sign a guy, like in recent examples, to Josh Hader or Edwin Diaz, you're signing a guy that can go into the 9th inning and shut it down. They might be blow 2 or 3 games a year, but when you go to the 9th inning, okay, game's over, it's done because we have the lead. This guy's not giving it up. We won. So I'm in big favor of paying closers. But I also don't think you should pay a closer if you're not in the right situation to. Like the Angels this offseason. They paid Robert Stevenson a big contract to presumably be their closer or the eighth inning guy. Now, Robert Stevenson is a great player, a guy I wanted on the Mets. But are the Angels really in a situation where they can give money that big of a contract to a reliever when they're probably not going to be winning much? The Mets could have done it because the year before they won 101 games. And not only that, you look at the off-the-field situation as well with Diaz, with the trumpets, how much the fan base loved him, how much of an icon he kind of become in baseball. So you look at it like that. Hader's not really like that, but I'm just making a comparison between relievers and what's going to go on with them and why they got paid like that. So, yeah. But other than that, you extended Altuve in the offseason, which, of course, is a great move. I mean, extending your best player, nothing wrong with that, believe me. So, yeah, he needed to be an Astro for life with how much he's meant to that organization. In the times of with all the situations they've been going through, Altuve's kind of been the one guy to stay there, take it all on the chin, and he said right after the scandal broke that they would win the World Series, and that's exactly what they did. He's one of the greatest playoff performers ever, probably the greatest Astro ever at this point. You could argue some other guys like Craig Biggio or Nolan Ryan, but I would probably go Jose Altuve at this point. He was just at a forefront of that Astros dynasty, is probably going to be for the next few years, depending on if you think the Astros dynasty is going to survive, quote-unquote, or keep going as it is. So, an interesting offseason for the Astros. They didn't really do much, but the fact is they made two big moves. They also traded for Dylan Coleman, which is a fine move from the Royals, I guess, just fine depth move. They didn't do much, but at the same time, they did enough because the one player they did get is very, very good. I kind of look at the season as maybe a little bit of a last hurrah for the Astros. You have Framber Valdez, who not looking like he's going to get extended, and you might have to trade him next offseason if you don't extend him. You have Jose Abreu, who's regressing. You have Bregman, who might leave in free agency, who's very, in my opinion, very likely to leave. You have Kyle Tucker, who I do think will be extended, but he's not extended yet. Verlander, this is probably his last season with the Astros. I don't think he gets the innings requirement to get the vesting option. So it's kind of a last hurrah, maybe. Not for the Astros, not for being great, but just the Astros dynasty we've known of, kind of the core players. I mean, if you trade Framber, which is definitely a possibility, if Bregman leaves, which I think is going to happen, if Verlander leaves, which I think is going to happen, even Kyle Tucker, that situation, your team's going to look drastically different from the teams that won you those two championships and made the ALCS 6 years in a row. So, it was a good move by the Astros to extend Altuve, retain some of their identity, which I think Altuve is their identity at this point. He is Houston. He is the Astros franchise, and it was a great move to extend him. And, again, they didn't do much this offseason, but when you're that good of a team, it's enough. And I think you have to look at the AL with the Astros and can they get over that hump. As of right now, I would have them as, I'd say, the second best team in the AL. Actually, I'll go third. I think they're the third best team. I'd probably have Baltimore, New York over them, and then I'd have them. You have Baltimore, you have New York, who both got better. After that, I don't really know if there's any team that's really a big threat to them. The Rangers lost a lot of pieces. I'm not very high on them. The Mariners are good, but they're young, and they still need to add some pieces, so I'm not really sure about that. Still a good team, though. Definitely have to make the playoffs. AL Central, I don't think there's anybody in there that's going to fight for them. The Twins are a very good team, but I just don't think they're on the level of the others. So, it's going to be interesting to see if the Astros can get over that hump. I would say they probably do. I would have them making the ALCS again. Again, I think it's them, Orioles, or Yankees who make it to the World Series. I would be surprised if it's anyone else. But, again, who would have thought the Rangers would make it to the World Series, and who would have thought the Diamondbacks would make it? So I think if anything's possible at this point in baseball, especially with how different things are and especially with how different the playoff format is. So I'm not going to count anyone out, but just on paper, which is always a risky game, you have Astros, Yankees, Orioles, in my opinion, in the AL. And I do think Hader and the Altuve extension were enough to get the Astros to over the hump a little bit and kind of get them to try to repeat as World Series champions. And not repeat because they made it 2 years ago, but make it back to the World Series and win the World Series again because they do have two. So, we talked a lot about the Astros, but time to talk about the other team, the Philadelphia Phillies. yeah, they've had a very interesting offseason. They've only signed a few guys. They signed Whit Merrifield, who was a nice depth piece. They re-signed Aaron Nola, who's a big piece of that rotation, of course, but, I mean, that's kind of it. I mean, a re-signing. He had kind of a down season last year. A lot of mileage on that arm, so it's kind of a risky signing a little bit, I think more than Phillies fans want to admit. So, yeah, it's something interesting to watch, see what happens there. Other than that, added Spencer Turnbull is a fine depth piece, but I'm not sure if this is enough to get over the hump, especially with what the Dodgers did. Looking at the NL here and the overview of that, I mean, first you have the Braves, who of course are the Braves. I mean, we know what the Braves are at this point. They're in just incredible team, so good. They added to it this offseason. Not enough, in my opinion. I thought they should have added one more piece. Maybe they'll even sign Blake Snell. I wouldn't be surprised if the Braves signed Blake Snell. That would make so much sense, but I'm really hoping not. Yeah, you have you added Chris Sale, who's very good, but again, it is 2024 actually. Wow, he has some injury risks. Reynaldo Lopez was a nice addition, but again, kind of a risk because you are making him a starting pitcher after being a reliever for a few years. You added Jared Kelenic, who's kind of a low buy signing. If he sucks, just if he's bad, just replace him in the outfield. He'll probably be the 9-hitter. So yeah, you have the Braves, of course, who are better than the Phillies. You now have I'd probably say the Braves are the only team in the NL East better than the Phillies. I don't think the Mets are, especially with the injuries they've had. I don't think the Marlins are with not many people they've added this offseason. After that, you have to look in the NL Central, and I don't think any team's better than them in the NL Central. Again, I'm high in the Reds. I like the Cubs. I like what they're doing, but at the same time, I'd still go Phillies. The Phillies still have a very good team, even though they didn't add much. I mean, your hitting core is incredible. You have just this starting lineup of JT Realmuto, Bryce Harper, Bryson Stott, Alec Boehm, Trey Turner, Nick Castellanos, Kyle Schwarber, Johan Rojas, Brandon Marsh. Like, that's an incredible starting lineup, of course. You have Zach Wheeler's race, Jose Alvarado manning the back end of that bullpen. So they're still a really good team. It's just, I thought they maybe should have added one or more pieces to kind of get past the hump of the NL. I think Blake Snell and Jordan Montgomery do make sense for the Phillies as kind of mystery teams. I think I wouldn't be surprised if either one of them signs there. Going back to the teams now, I do think the Diamondbacks are better. They beat them last year as well, of course. I mean, making it to the World Series. So yeah, I definitely think the Diamondbacks are better. The Diamondbacks, unlike the Phillies, they added. They added Eduardo Rodriguez, Jock Peterson, Randall Grichuk, Eugenio Suarez. So I'm really, really high on the Diamondbacks. I really like what they did. So, yeah, I definitely think the Phillies should have added more. I think they can get over the hump. It's just a fact of will they. I'm not really sure right now. Yeah, it's just going to be interesting to watch, see what happens here with both these teams. Can they get over that hump? Can they be better than they were last year? Keep performing. Will their offseason additions make them a lot better? I mean, both teams didn't add much, but I guess you could say it's quality over quantity, which you could argue they did. With Merrifield, nice signing for the Phillies, nice re-signing of Nola. Astros, nice signing of Hader, nice extension of Altuve. So, yeah, they didn't do much, but hopefully for them it's enough. So that is our third segment. We're going to go to a break here, but after that we're going to go to our fourth and final segment, which is going to be about news around the league, just general news around the league. I want to talk about stuff that I thought was interesting, but maybe didn't deserve its full segment. So, we're going to talk about that. First, we're going to go to a break, so I'll see you after that. Thanks. right, we are back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast, bringing you our fourth and final segment today, and that is going to be around some news around the league, some storylines I would like to follow a little bit. Just going to move this a tiny bit if you're watching on live or on YouTube. So, we're just going to talk about some news around the league, what's going on with that, and some stories I thought were interesting and notable. So, here we go. So first, we're going to talk about Tampa. They brought back a familiar face, bringing back Francisco Mejia on a minor league contract with an invitation to spring training. Mejia was released by the Angels a few days ago after they kind of announced that they were letting him go just because they had a good amount of competition at catcher. And they liked him, but they didn't really have a spot for him. So, going back to Tampa for Mejia makes a lot of sense. Tampa knows their guys very well. Traded for him in a trade a few years ago, actually. Blanking on the trade right now, but because AJ Preller made so many blockbuster trades. Nice move for Tampa. Sorry, I didn't mean AJ Preller. I meant Eric Neander. Mejia was once with the Padres, so I got it mixed up, but it's whatever. It's a good move for Tampa. I like the fact that they are getting some catching depth. Maybe they see something in him still that they don't want to give up on him. They still think he could be a good MLB player. So good signing by the Rays and a nice shot from Mejia to get back on his feet. So next we're talking about the Giants. Some more pitching woes to the Giants. So Tristan Beck, who is slotted to be their five-starter right now, has an aneurysm in his arm, which is not very good. It's kind of a rare thing. I don't really know how many pitchers get it. He's sidelined for a little while now, of course. But it just adds to the multitude of pitching injuries and pitching woes the Giants have had now. Of course, you have Alex Cobb, who's out the entire first half. You have Robbie Wright, who they traded for knowing he would be out the first half. You have Keaton Winn, who got injured as well. We're not sure how long he's going to be out. So that's now four guys who are probably going to be big impacts to you that are going to be out for a little bit amount of time. So it's just not a great start for the Giants, but still have Logan Webb. You still have Jordan Hicks, who is a big question mark, of course, but he still is there. They gave him the contract for a reason. They're hoping he can be a starter. So, just something I wanted to touch on there about Tristan Beck. Very strange situation, but let's hope Giants fans can get through it, and let's hope the Giants can get through it, because once their pitching additions come back, I think they'll be a pretty good second half team. But that's not for a little while now. So, going from an NL West team to a different one, Max Muncy. He was hit by a pitch yesterday. Sorry, I don't know why that messed me up so bad. And after X-rays, they came back negative. They revealed that he has a contusion after getting hit by the pitch. He'll be out a few days, most likely. Actually, there's an updated on it right now, so let's read it. Max Muncy said X-rays on his hand came back negative. Said the swelling has gone down significantly, but still hasn't tried swinging a bat. So there you go. Not great for the Dodgers, but it doesn't seem like a big deal. But it is notable because he is older. He didn't have the greatest season the year ago. So hoping he can bounce back from this. He's a big part of that Dodgers lineup, one of the most underrated. They have all those stars, but it's guys like him, Will Smith, who really keep it together, really keep it consistent. So looking forward to see what happens with Muncy, and hopefully he gets out of this and gets better. So but it is notable. Again, hoping he improves. So So next we have the Padres. According to reports, they are interested in another outfield addition. This makes a lot of sense, as they currently only have 3 outfielders on their starting 40-man roster, which is just insane to think about. They have Fernando Tatis Jr., of course, Jose Azocar, and Jurickson Profar, who was just re-signed. So they obviously need another outfielder after trading Soto and Trent Grisham in the same trade, getting rid of 2 of your outfielders on the depth chart already there. The 2 guys I would look at right now is Tommy Pham and Adam Duvall. They're the top free agent outfielders left. They could swing a trade, but I think they're more looking for the free agency market at this point. Obviously, Pham has a history with the Padres, played for them for a few years. Was pretty good. Was kind of up and down, though. Did have some eyesight problems there, apparently, which he did get fixed. So maybe if he does come back, he'll be better. He apparently doesn't have an offer still, according to Bob Nightingale of USA Today, which is just, that's insane to think about. He was so good last year with both the Mets and the Diamondbacks, kind of a season out of nowhere, after coming back from the whole slapping thing. So kind of remade his career a little bit and remade his reputation as a guy who works hard, which he always was, but I think it's good now that he was getting it out into the public. So, I'd look at Tommy Pham as a potential addition to the Padres. I would assume he probably starts in left field or so. So, definitely looking at that. Again, Adam Duvall, same thing. We don't. It was a report that came out, I think it was a month ago or at this point or something, that he was between the Red Sox and the Angels for a deal, and obviously nothing has come to fruition since that. So I'm definitely looking for Duvall and seeing what happens with him. I think he's a great fit with the Padres. I do. He's a better fielder than Pham. Maybe not as good of a hitter, but he's more versatility as well. Can play center if needed. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens there with both Duvall and Pham, not only just with the Padres, but what happens with them in general. I think they're both really good players, and I'm super surprised they're still out on the market. So, I'm looking forward to seeing where they sign. And the Padres interested in an outfit addition. Both those guys can make a lot of sense. So, So we're going to talk about two Mets things here because they're related. So the first one is something that broke while I was on stream. I checked it during my break, so I added to the list. Max Kranick is hurt and is going to be out a little while, according to Mets manager Carlos Mendoza. He has a hamstring strain. Kranick was very good in his debut with the Mets. Was in the running for the 5-starter job after Kodai Senga had the injury and is going to be out for a little bit. So it's just another blow to the pitching staff for the Mets. He grew up a Mets fan as well, Kranick in Pittsburgh, which is interesting. So it was a nice storyline to see if he could have pitched for his team he grew up liking. But obviously it's not now. So I think you have to look at guys like David Peterson when he comes back to fill in. He's even hurt as well. Jose Budo, Tyler McGill, who I think is probably the leading candidate right now, maybe even the prospects like Christian Scott, Mike Vassell, Blade Tidwell. So you have to look at those guys. And it plays into my next point, which I also had, which is that the Mets, apparently according to The Athletic, the Mets are in contact with free agent starting pitchers. Not in contact where they're working out a contract or trying to get them, but they're in contact in case one of their prices do fall. And I think at this point, they might have to consider making a move. Now, if I'm the Mets, I'm not making a small move. I'm not going for a guy like Lorenzen, maybe even a guy like Syndergaard, someone like that. To me, I've said this for a little while now, even when I didn't have the show. Jordan Montgomery, I really want Jordan Montgomery. He makes so much sense with the Mets. He has history playing in New York. He's shown he can do it on the big stage. He doesn't have a qualifying offer attached to him, which is something the Mets really look for and kind of is a turn away because they want to save their draft picks. At this point, his contract's definitely going to fall. I don't know what other suitors are out there, probably except the Red Sox and maybe the Cubs or the Giants. So, if I'm the Mets, I'm going for Jordan Montgomery, especially with these with the injuries they've had. It also gets you another pitcher for next year. You don't have many guys. You have Sang under control, and that's it. You would have him now. You would have Montgomery, which is a nice start to next year. Your prospects would come up like Matt Vassell, like Christian Scott, like Blade Tidwell. So, you need the Mets. I'm glad they're in contact with the free agent starters, but if I'm them, I'm signing Jordan Montgomery today. I don't think that's just spur of the moment thing. I wanted this for a little while now, and I think he makes a lot of sense. But going to different stuff now. Charlie Culberson, he made the transition from a free agent infielder with the Braves to a super utility with the Braves, to now a relief pitcher, which is an interesting one. But if he's successful, go ahead. So today he had his first outing, and he pitched a scoreless inning. So, hey, great for him. I mean, this is, of course, a Braves thing. Getting a super utility guy and making him a reliever, something only the Braves would do. Just that organization is incredible. So, strange. But, hey, I mean, if Culberson can become actually a solid reliever, I think it'll be one of the better storylines in the league and would be really, really cool. So, looking forward to seeing what happens there. The Tigers, they claimed Buddy Kennedy off waivers today. Not going to spend much time on this, but just nice step move for them. Add to that third base position. They added Gio Urshela there, of course, so just some nice depth behind them. I doubt he makes the MLB roster, but some good depth in the minor leagues behind Urshela. And, just good depth overall. Good teams have depth, and I think the Tigers, are trying to get that organization to be new again and yeah, I think that starts with good depth moves, which they're doing. Next, we have more news about Kike Hernandez. Of course, he did sign with the Dodgers, and that was a big deal because it came out of nowhere after they traded Manuel Margot to Minnesota after acquiring him from the Rays. So there was a report that came out from Ken Rosenthal, who is extremely reliable, that it was the Dodgers, Padres, Giants, and it was the Padres, Giants, Twins, and one other team that were the Angels as well. Sorry, that were involved in his final decision, and instead he then went to the Dodgers. And Rosenthal said that this came together quickly, and that his report was still right. He decided at the end he wanted to go back to the Dodgers. Apparently today that was not true. Kike Hernandez said on Foul Territory, which the show Rosenthal was also on a lot, so that's interesting, that he was between the Yankees and the Dodgers for his contract. So that was interesting. I think he's a good fit for the Dodgers, bringing super utility and nice depth to them. So yeah, I thought it was a good move for the Dodgers, and it's interesting that he was picking between the Yankees and the Dodgers. I don't know how he would have fit with the Yankees, but interesting thing here. So next, we're going to talk about some spring training games quickly, but before we do that, we're going to talk about one specific spring training game, and that is the Pirates vs. Orioles. Now, you may be asking yourself, why are we talking about the Pirates vs. Orioles? Who cares? That's such a random game. But, so first, it was Paul Skeens pitching for the Pirates, so that was something notable. And today, he went one inning and gave up no hits, no runs, no walks, but also no strikeouts. So, so that was something. You also had Corbin Burns pitching for the Orioles. He did not pitch very well. He pitched 1 2/3 innings, 3 hits, 3 earned runs, and a walk. And the 3-run home run was to former top pick Henry Davis of the Pirates. So it's just a game showing off a lot of the talent for these young teams. Also, Jackson Holliday played for the Orioles, top prospect in baseball. Played second base and got 2 hits, bringing his spring training OPS to 788. So yeah, I mean, it was just a fun game with young players. Again, Henry Davis kind of overshadowed with Skeens and Jackson Holliday. He had a big home run off Corbin Burns, which is very, very good for his future. Jackson Holliday also had an RBI triple in the game, and in the end, the Orioles won 9-8. So so good for the Orioles, winning the game of kind of the youngsters, and just an interesting game. A lot of young storylines there, and wanted to talk about it. Next, we have the other games that happened. The Phillies blew out the Blue Jays 5-0. Same with the Twins and the Braves. Braves won. They also had another game playing versus the Rays. It was a split squad game, of course. They beat them 12-9. That was on the back of a Ronald Acuna RBI double. You also had the Nationals beating the Cardinals 3-1. Kyle Gibson did not have a great start in his first start with the Cardinals, so that's not great for Cardinals fans, but let's hope he's better than the season. Red Sox beat the Tigers 5-2. Marlins, Yankees, Dodgers, Reds, and Mets Astros are going to be later today. I'll be watching the Mets Astros, of course. The Rockies are beating the Cubs 5-3. Padres beating the A's 4-3. White Sox are beating the Royals 2-0. Brewers beating the Rangers 3-2. Angels 3-0 Guardians. The bases are actually loaded now for Anthony Rendon, so we'll see if he can do anything with that. D-backs are beating the Giants 2-1 in the bottom of the 6th, and the Mariners are beating the White Sox in a different game 4-3. So those are the spring training games right now. For the Guardians right now, it's Tanner Burns versus Anthony Rendon for the bases loaded. I don't think we'll have enough time to go over it, but hopefully something will happen with that after this stream's done. So that's it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Your support means a lot. Thank you so much. Hope you liked the show today. Remember, gsmcpodcast.net to donate. Keep liking, subscribing, watching, viewing, commenting, all that good stuff. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, all the stuff where you can get content updates, Twitch as well. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Thank you. Bye.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great.